For as long as mankind has existed, so has the need for transportation. Before our ancestors had even invented the wheel, we used sticks and animal skins to make primitive stretchers, helping us to carry loads from place to place in a way that would be impossible to achieve by hands alone. As we've evolved, so has our ability to build. The superstructures we build today can be hundreds of feet wide or long and weigh thousands of tons. As the load gets bigger, the means of transportation become more sophisticated, more innovative, and more exciting. Today, we're looking at 7 of the most incredible transportation achievements of all time. First up, wind turbine blades. Wind is a clean energy resource which is renewable and kinder to the environment than nuclear or coal power. But harnessing it relies on getting a wind turbine in the right place. For these Chinese workers, the right place was 9,500 feet high on the Boding Mountain, at the top of a path that's 3.5 miles long and features 30-degree slopes. Each blade of the turbine weighs 12 tons and is over 160 feet long. This was not a job for the faint-hearted. Specially adapted trucks were chosen for the job, featuring 16-ton double-reduction planetary axles, phenomenal torque power, and a trailer with a hydraulic rotating function. The rotation was crucial to avoid the blades of the turbine making contact with the power lines that were overhead on the journey. Each blade took 5 hours to transport, and there were 90 of them. That's some serious heavy lifting. Speaking of heavy lifting, let's look at the undisputed king of air transportation. The AN-225 Mriya aircraft is the heaviest transport aircraft in the world. It was originally built by Soviet engineers in the mid-1980s as part of the USSR space program and was instrumental in the launch of the Buran orbiter. It was then adapted for commercial cargo use, carrying everything from battle tanks to food. In 2002, it flew 216,000 prepared meals to military personnel in Oman, with a weight of a staggering 187.5 tons. That wasn't its peak achievement, though. In 2013, Mriya transported a gas generator for a power plant from Bahrain to Zurich. Tipping the scales at 190 tons, it remains the largest single cargo ever transported through the air. No other plane in existence would be capable of bearing such a load, and the AN-225 remains unique. In addition, Mriya is regularly operated and flies on commercial flights. It's the only one of its kind. Looking at a self-propelled modular transporter, or SPMT, as they're known, doesn't truly give you a sense of their power. They're comparatively small, and they can even be loaded onto the back of a standard truck. But thanks to their awesome hydraulic capabilities, they can carry unbelievably heavy loads. Comprising largely of a series of wheels beneath the platform, mounted on individually controllable axles, several SPMTs can be joined together to add to their weight tolerance. Their achievements are legendary and numerous, but here are just some of the highlights. In 2016, an SPMT in Portugal moved a fractionating column for an engineering company. It was more than 60 feet long and weighed over 1,000 tons. The SPMT moved the load from land to a ship, where it set sail for Mexico. In 2009, an SPMT was used in Italy for the transportation of a yacht. The giant sea vessel weighed over 1,200 tons and would never have made it to the water had we not invented a machine capable of shifting something so massive. In 2015, it managed an even more impressive feat. A whole transportation module for use on an oil rig was moved by an SPMT. Enormously high and wide, the 1,500-ton platform structure looks like it should be impossible to move, but the SPMT fears no job. It may move slowly, but it always gets the work done. In fact, it can deal with even bigger loads. In 2010, the Chilean vessel Cabo de Hornos was ready for launch. However, on the morning of launch day, an earthquake caused a tsunami that dislodged the ship from the harbor and beached it across the water, damaging it in the process. With the boat weighing over 3,000 tons, salvage seemed impossible. until a Dutch firm brought in their SPMTs and saved the day. The difficult and painstaking operation took almost a year, but by January 2011, the ship was back in the harbor and in the water once more. Because of the amazing capabilities of SPMT units, the Cabo de Hornos is still afloat today, and in 2018 served as the surface vessel for Audacia mission, which collected samples from the bed of the ocean at record depths. The ALE SPMT in Malaysia is the proud new owner of the new world record, having shifted a phenomenal 17,000 tons at once. That incredible weight came in the shape of a ferry, which had sunk to the bottom of the East China Sea. ALE didn't know they'd be breaking records when they started the job. They were told to expect a weight of 13,000 tons, but being underwater had added an additional 4,000 tons of mud to the ferry. That meant a change of plan, and almost 150 extra axles being added to the SPMT to bear the extra load. That was a record amount of axles to go with the record burden the machine had to carry. It was a complicated job, made even harder by the fact that the ferry was laying on its side. But ALE was up to the task. What do you do if you have a beautiful old hotel which is damaged by an earthquake and due to be knocked down? You move it, of course. The Hotel Montgomery in San Jose, California had been damaged beyond use in an earthquake in 1989, and builders planned to knock it down in the year 2000 and build a new luxury hotel on the same site. The mayor of San Jose, however, had other ideas. Wanting to preserve the original building and see it restored, he ordered a rescue mission like no other. The 4,800-ton hotel was lifted up by jacks, and then a series of remote-controlled machines were slid beneath it. Working to a similar principle as SPMTs, the machines took the load and moved the hotel 186 feet south of where it stood, safely out of the way of redevelopment. Restoration work could then commence, and the hotel finally reopened to the public in 2004. Space rockets are among the biggest things the human race have ever built, but it's impractical to build them on the launch pad. That means they have to be constructed elsewhere and then transported to the place they take off from. That's easier said than done. Take the famous Saturn V rocket, for example. It was 363 feet tall, which is higher than the Statue of Liberty, and weighed a whopping 3,100 tons when loaded with fuel. Faced with moving the behemoth structures, NASA invented crawler transporters, which are tank-like vehicles that weigh an incredible 2,750 tons themselves. The roads they travel down have to be specially reinforced with hardened rock. Although they were built way back in the 1960s, no better way of moving space rockets has ever been discovered, and those same crawler transporters have been upgraded, refined, and repaired over the years, remaining in service with NASA to this day. And now, from something built to touch the stars to something that fell from them. It's estimated that the Cape York meteorite originally fell to Earth some 10,000 years ago in Greenland. If you think that's a long time ago, the asteroid that it broke away from is believed to be closer to 4.5 billion years old. Comprised mostly of iron, local Inuits thought it was just a pretty cool source of material for building tools, until it was properly discovered and identified by explorer Robert E. Peary in 1894. He was excited by the opportunity to study the meteorite, but there was one problem. He needed to get it to the American Museum of Natural History all the way back home in New York. That meant getting it on a ship. And to get it on a ship, it had to be transported to the bay. There was only one thing for it: build Greenland's first ever railway. The railroad, which remains the only one ever built in Greenland, took 3 years to build and was constructed specifically to cope with the 31-ton weight of the meteorite. You can still see the Cape York meteorite on display at the museum today, where it sits on a special stand, which is anchored onto the bedrock beneath the museum in order to cope with all that weight. If you added up the weight of everything we've looked at so far, you wouldn't even get close to a tenth of the weight of the heaviest object ever moved by mankind. Take a second to think about how huge some of the things we've discussed are, and then imagine how big the Troll A platform has to be. The gas drilling platform, which is based just off the coast of Norway, weighs 1.2 million tons. 1.2 million! It's also over 1,500 feet tall. It is both the tallest and the heaviest object ever moved by human beings. The platform was constructed on land and then had to be moved 174 miles out to sea in order to get to its permanent location. That required the work of 10 tugboats working together. 8 were pulling, and 2 were doing the steering. Despite all that force, it still couldn't be moved faster than 1 knot per hour, so it took a full week to complete the journey. The boats had to stay in formation around it, each pulling to keep it steady while it was pile-driven into position. Unless someone decides to try to move the moon, it's doubtful anybody will ever move anything this heavy again. Who would even be crazy enough to try? Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, and you will be the first to know when a new video comes out. Thank you for watching, and see you soon.